Okay, another rant incoming. Clearly my rant days are not behind me. In fact, they're in front of me. Right in front of me, uncomfortably close to me. Please stand 2 meters away from me. In my travels through the Twitterverse, I've seen a lot of dumb hot shit when it comes to takes on media. Now, a steaming hot pile of take on Twitter isn't exactly a revelation, but these ones were specifically strange. Here's some advice. Don't search up anything you like alongside the term problematic. Not only is that term generally insufferable, but doing this action I just mentioned will make you really want to just void your subscription to Oxygen. Thread after thread after oh so sweetly snarky thread about why your favourite media content is harmful or hurtful or generally has some iffy elements in it. You know, the things that actually make a story interesting, or may not even be massive parts of the story. Scott Pilgrim, for instance, is quite a big one. I'm a fan of the Scott Pilgrim series, and the protagonist is an interesting character who gets into interesting situations. I've seen a lot of people talk about why Scott Pilgrim is problematic, or generally just not a good guy. He's dating a high schooler at the start of the story, he cheats on her, he refuses to move on from past events, and he doesn't acknowledge his faults. So my question to these people would be, so when are you planning on actually reading the story? Clearly you haven't, since if you had, you wouldn't sound like you had brain removal surgery immediately after you closed Finest Hour. Shock, horror, breaking news, Scott Pilgrim is not written to be a likeable character. Throughout the story, pretty much every other character comments on Scott's faults, mainly Kim Pine, and especially in the 6th volume. Pilgrim is a cheater, a slacker, someone who consistently fails to realise the truth about himself and his actions. This is very, very clear to literally anyone who read the books. So when are you going to remove your connection to the exclusive club specifically for judging something that you have actually no interest in learning about and come to the side that has a decent grasp of character establishment and progression? So that point was specifically about Scott Pilgrim, but it is a topic that can apply to media as a whole. A character who has some iffy traits about them, according to social media, is not inherently problematic. It's all about the progress the character makes and how it's conveyed by the story. Here's an example. Joker came out last year, and it ruffled some jimmies due to its portrayal of the main character. The film does a great job of establishing Joker's situation before his big turning point, quote unquote. He's very passive even though he doesn't want to be, he's beaten down, he's weathered by life and society at large in Gotham. When he's on that train, he doesn't want problems with the Trump family stand-ins, but due to a consistent character trait, they are drawn to him and attack him. He kills them all in a shocking, violent act. Weird. Joker killing people? That's fucking weird. The film doesn't make these guys sympathetic, but it is clear that Joker's killing of the last guy was pushing it, considering how he was running away and pleading for his life. This act of pushing into a darker area with an already dark act solidifies Joker's spiral from then on, in what is an unsettling yet captivating downfall into madness. It all makes sense given the story and discussion and the character Joker had been established to be at that moment. Is he a good guy? A likeable guy? I personally wouldn't say that, but the film does a really good job of showing that this was a bad situation with a grim, yet freeing outcome. For the character. Everything made sense in that scenario to that character. The character. Not us, the audience, specifically, even though his motivations are understandable, but mainly to the character. The character is morally questionable in that moment at best. And you know what? It's one of the best scenes in an already great film. Characters with grey or dark morals are interesting because they challenge the viewer, create situations with outcomes that are difficult to truly definitively state as objectively good for everyone involved. Come on then, avid Twitter user. Given Joker's character and situation on that train, what would be an outcome that is good for absolutely everyone involved? No death, no violence, no breaking point. Go. Yeah, you can't. And you know what? That's fine. And honestly, this is kind of weird, the fact that I'm bringing up a connection between Joker and fucking Scott Pilgrim of all people. And Joker is an extreme instance of a character with questionable morals, if the term questionable can even apply to Joker in general. But the point stands. Having a character with questionable actions and motivations isn't problematic. It all comes down to how these motivations and actions are conveyed through the story. If it's something like, I don't know, Birth of a Nation, sure, I can get behind tossing that away, even though that film is propaganda anyway. But Scott Pilgrim? He's hardly the bastion for morally questionable characters. All he did was cheat on his girlfriend. He didn't drown a toddler. Making your character with questionable traits doesn't make you problematic. It makes you human. And nobody should be convinced to change their story on that basis alone. These Twitter twats seem to believe that humans are either great or terrible, and they obviously fall into the perfect category. Therefore, they are totally justified in passing judgment. Having questionable morals is something human beings have sometimes. This is not weird, so stop treating it like it is. They simultaneously deify people, yet demonize them in the sense that people are either gods of unproblematicness or totally sinful, problematic demons, and that is a ridiculous standard to hold. So yes, Twitter people, get better writing or critiquing skills and tone down the problematic use of the word problematic. It's rather problematic. Good characters reflect our human aspects, and sometimes that contains some iffy behaviour. We're all guilty of that shit, so unless a story is outright stating skinning a dog in front of its owner is totally a-okay, then let us have our edgy, iffy stories with edgy, iffy, yet human characters.